All right, if you come outside and your AC is making just a very abnormal, loud sound, here are the things I want you to look for first. Let's get into it.
Mechanics for non-mechanics.
First thing I want you to do is come out here to your disconnect, your outdoor breaker, and shut it off. And if you can't find this, then just go to your breaker panel and shut that off. All right, so shut it off for like 15 minutes and then turn it back on again, turn the breaker back on again and see if it's running normally. That's step one. If that doesn't work, let's go to the next step. All right, the next step is to ask yourself if you accidentally turned the thermostat off and on real quick, or vice versa, that will, if the compressor is operating normally, it'll have unequalized pressures, okay? So you'll have a low side low and you'll have a high side high. So if you turn the unit off, or if you shift it off on the thermostat and then turn it back on again, it's now trying to start against what's called unequalized pressures. And that's not good for the compressor. The compressor is supposed to start when both the pressures are equalized. So if you did that, again, just shut the whole thing off for like 15 minutes and then turn it back on and see if that works. So what happens when you turn the thermostat off and then on again, it has to start against the unequalized pressures. Or if it gets, or if you have a lightning storm, that also can do it. If the compressor's running and the lightning hits your AC and it causes it to short or causes it to shut off and then turn back on again, compressor will start running backwards and make a very loud repetitious noise. And your neighbors will hear it, you'll hear it. Okay, so if you have that happen, just come off, shut the breaker off, give it some time to cool off, and then start it back up and see if that works. If that doesn't work, let's go to the next step. Okay, the next step is that the compressor might have shut off. That's your compressor inside there, that black cylindrical thing. It has an overload in there where if it's running locked up, like really loud for a long period of time, it needs to cool down before it can start back up. So it might be shut off. My water system just came on. It might be shut off on overload. Okay, it might have an internal overload switch inside the compressor that's keeping it off. So what you can do is you can take a hose, make sure the power's turned off at the breaker. So we're gonna shut the breaker off for the outdoor unit, okay? Then we're gonna turn the hose on and we're just gonna put it over top of our compressor, okay? And we're gonna do that for about I'd say about 5-10 minutes, and you might hear something switch inside of there, okay? Because that compressor could be too hot on overload, and that's why it's not turning off. It's a safety in there, okay? So you'll turn that on for 5, 10, 15 minutes. And once you've cooled that compressor down, again, you'll come back over to the breaker, flip the breaker on, and then turn it on at the thermostat and see if the compressor switches on and is no longer making that super loud noise, okay? If that doesn't work, let's go to the next step. Thing you want to check for is make sure nothing is obstructing this coil, okay? Meaning you don't have your garbage cans right up against the coil. This coil has to breathe. It needs air to come in so that it can push it out the top. So if you have things obstructing it, you know, chairs that are around the coil or garbage cans or something, move those out of the way and then try it again, see if that works. All right, the next thing to check for is to make sure this condenser fan is running, okay? Because if the compressor tries to come on and the fan is not running, either because the fan's gone bad or you have a bad capacitor toward the fan, that fan's not going to move, and the compressor's going to get very, very hot, 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 hot. And see, this fan is here getting rid of the heat. So it pulls air in from the sides and pushes that heat out the top. And so if the fan's not running, it's not going to be able to get rid of the heat that is in the compressor there. So the compressor will get very, very hot, 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 hot. And then, like I said, it'll shut off on an internal overload switch until it gets cools down again, another 15-20 minutes, and then it'll try and start up again. And if this fan's not running, it'll get hot, 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 and then it'll shut down. It'll just keep doing that over and over again, and you're not going to be getting any cold air. And so hopefully at some point you come out and realize and call an AC guy to come and take a look at it. But your whole problem is that your fan is not working, and so it can't get rid of the heat. And so yeah, try that. Check for that. If not, let's move to the next step. All right, the next thing to check for is your high side line. So you have two copper lines generally coming into your AC unit. You have a fat line and a skinny line. The skinny line is called the high side line, okay, or the liquid line. And you want to feel that when the unit is running. It's not running right now, but when it's running, you want to feel it. If it's hot to touch where you have to take your hand off, then that most likely tells you that this coil here is dirty and needs to be cleaned. And we have a video on how to clean it right there. Check out that video right there. But yeah, if this line, this liquid line is too hot, I mean, it might be a little warm, but it shouldn't be hot to where you can't even put your hand on it, okay? If that's the case, you need to clean your coil. And again, if you don't know how to do that, check out that video right there. We'll show you. And if it gets too hot, of course, it's going to shut off that compressor on overload as well. And again, you'll have to wait through the process at that point. So if that doesn't work, move to the next step. Okay, so another thing you can check for is when the unit's running, is there warm air coming out the top? If it's cold air, then you're probably low on Freon, which could be causing the unit to be running a little louder than normal, or sometimes it'll be ticking, tick, 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 tick. And so you got to get some Freon in there, okay? So again, when you put your hand up here, it should be warm air. It shouldn't be very, very hot, but, warm. And if this line is really hot, okay, then the air probably coming out the top is going to be super hot. So again, at that point, you would shut the breaker off, clean the coil out. The next thing you can try to do is to spin this blade with a long screwdriver. In order to do that, you want to make sure that the breaker is off. Okay, and then just come over here, put a long screwdriver in, flat blade, Phillips, doesn't matter, and just spin it. If it spins a few times freely, then the fan is not seized up. However, if the fan is seized up, then again, it can't get rid of the heat from the compressor, and you have that issue again. All right, let's move to the next step. Next step is a capacitor. You might need a capacitor for your AC unit because the fan side of the capacitor is not working, and that's what's keeping the fan off, which is what is causing your compressor to heat up, which is what causing it to make those noises. So we have a video here on what a capacitor is, and you can there's plenty of videos on how to replace those. And then finally, it would be maybe needing to add a hard start kit, which I don't recommend you do if you are not familiar with AC or anything like that. I would recommend a technician do that, but you might need a hard start kit to smooth out the running of that compressor as well. I hope these were helpful for you. If you want other troubleshooting, all of your troubleshooting issues with AC, definitely subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. It helps us reach a larger audience with these helpful videos, and we'll see you in the next one.